Look around. The world seems to be on fire. The news is a never-ending stream of war, division, disaster, and fear. People shout louder, trust less, scroll more, and sleep worse. We are wired, tired, distracted, and dissatisfied, chasing peace in a place that seems to grow noisier by the day. But here's the question no one dares to ask. Is the world truly burning, or is it our mind that's ablaze? Because if you've ever had a restless night, you know this truth. Even in a silent room, the loudest storm is the one inside your head. We spend our lives trying to fix, change, control the outside world. We switch jobs. We move cities. We block people. We light candles. We go vegan. And yet the unease returns. The same anxiety creeps in under a different disguise. The same void whispers through new walls. So maybe the problem isn't out there. Maybe the smoke we see is only the reflection of a fire within. The ancient sages of Buddhism didn't speak of saving the world. They spoke of saving the mind. They didn't preach about fighting against external chaos. They pointed inward, toward the root of all suffering, all confusion, all illusion. And they left behind a simple, almost invisible truth. When the mind is pure, the world is pure. It sounds poetic, doesn't it? But it's more than poetry. It's a compass. A way out of the madness, not by fleeing the world, but by seeing it clearly for the first time. Because what if the world isn't inherently broken, but it's our lens that's cracked? Imagine this. Two people walk through the same crowded street. One is angry, lost in thought, annoyed at the traffic, the noise, the smell of fried oil. The other walks in silence, noticing the golden light on the bricks, the laughter of a child, the rhythm of feet on pavement. Same street, same hour, same world, but one lives in hell, the other in peace. Nothing out there changed, only the mind. This is not spiritual idealism. This is a shift in perception, the only place real change ever happens. But let's be honest. The idea that our suffering is self-created can feel insulting. We want to believe it's the politicians, the economy, the weather, the X. And yes, pain is real. Injustice is real. Life is difficult. But suffering is more than pain. Suffering is pain plus resistance. And resistance is born in the mind. That's why two people can lose the same job. One collapses into despair, the other rises with quiet strength. One curses life. The other thanks it for the lesson. Where does this difference come from? Not from the world, but from within. So let's stop asking, why is the world like this? And start asking, what is my mind projecting onto the world? What judgments? What stories? What fears? Because if the mind is like a mirror, then all we ever see is our own reflection. Twisted by our traumas, tinted by our desires, fogged by our ignorance. And what happens when we start cleaning that mirror? Not all at once, not in one meditation, but slowly, breath by breath, thought by thought, moment by moment. The world begins to change because our way of seeing does. And this is where true transformation begins, not with slogans, not with rage, but with a still mind, a quiet breath, a single moment of clarity. You don't have to renounce the world, you just have to stop letting it define you. The chaos out there, it's not yours to fix. Your only task is to clear the fog in here, because the world you see is not the world as it is, it's the world as you are. And when the mind becomes still, just for a second, you'll glimpse something extraordinary, the same world, but with open eyes and a peaceful heart. Then slowly the voice resumes. There's a kind of clarity that doesn't come from knowing more, but from letting go. And when we start letting go of the noise, the dust, the need to control everything, something unexpected appears. A deeper kind of seeing, a subtler kind of purity, a mind that no longer pollutes the moment. What does that mind look like? Let's take a closer look. So what exactly is a pure mind? It's a phrase we hear often, quoted in ancient scriptures, printed on wellness posters, whispered in meditation halls. But what does it really mean? Is it about never getting angry, never thinking a negative thought, always smiling, always calm, floating on some spiritual cloud? Not quite. A pure mind isn't a perfect mind, it's a clear one, uncluttered, unfiltered, undistorted by noise, greed, fear, or grasping. Think of it like this. Imagine a glass of water. If the water is stirred with mud, the whole thing turns murky. You can't see through it. But if you let it sit still, the dirt settles. The water clears. Not because you removed the dirt, but because you stopped agitating it. That's the pure mind. Not a mind without thoughts, but a mind that no longer churns them. Not a mind that denies emotion, but one that sees emotion and lets it pass like clouds across an open sky. In Buddhism, this clarity is known by many names. Siddha Visuddhi, purification of the heart-mind. Shunyata, emptiness, but not in the sense of void, rather the absence of delusion. Original mind, beginner's mind, Buddha nature. Different names, same essence. A mind that sees reality as it is, not as we want it to be. But let's be honest. Most of us don't live with that kind of mind. We live in a constant swirl of reaction. We grasp at what we want. We push away what we fear. We cling to labels. Mine, me, I deserve, they should. We rehearse past hurts. We fast forward future anxieties. And all the while, the present moment, simple, alive, peaceful, is drowned beneath the weight of everything we think we know. A pure mind is a return to simplicity, not a step backward but a step inward, not naive but awake. It doesn't mean you stop thinking. It means thought no longer controls you. It doesn't mean you become passive. It means action flows from clarity, not chaos. It doesn't mean the world suddenly becomes kind. It means you see its unkindness without becoming unkind yourself. Zen masters often said, "The mind is like the moon reflected on water. The water must be still to see the moon clearly." What they meant is this: truth is not hidden, peace is not far, reality is not mysterious. They are here, always here, but the water must become still. The mind must settle. Only then do we see the reflection for what it is, not distorted by ripples, fear, opinion, memory. So how do we purify the mind? Not by force, not by suppression, but by awareness, noticing when you cling, noticing when you judge, noticing the habits that arise not from wisdom but from wounds. This noticing, without shame, without struggle, is the beginning of purification, because awareness is purification. A pure mind isn't something you gain. It's something you uncover. It's not out there in a book or retreat or mantra. It's here beneath the layers of conditioning, the mental dust, beneath the stories, beneath the noise, beneath even the question, am I there yet? It's the stillness that was always inside you, waiting for space to breathe. And here's the beauty. You don't have to purify the whole mind at once. You just need to find one clear breath, one moment of seeing without judgment, one pause before reaction. And in that pause, you've already tasted freedom. In that stillness, you've already touched the pure mind, not because you've become someone new, but because you remembered who you were before the noise began. And once you remember that, everything begins to shift. We like to believe we see the world as it is, solid, objective, obvious. But what if we're not seeing the world at all? What if we're only seeing the dust on the window, every thought, every memory, every opinion we've gathered? They coat the lens of our perception. And then we look out and confuse the dirty glass for the actual view. Think about it. You meet someone for the first time. Within seconds, your mind starts whispering, trustworthy or not, smart or fake, friend or threat. You don't even realize it's happening, but the filters are already up. Snap judgments, mental labels, emotional coloring. And now you're no longer seeing them, you're seeing your past, your assumptions, your biases, your pain. This is the great illusion. We believe perception is truth, but the Buddha taught otherwise. He didn't say, change the world. He said, understand your perception, because what you see is never separate from how you see. A dusty mirror doesn't reflect the world clearly. Neither does a dusty mind. If your heart is full of fear, you'll find reasons to be afraid. If your mind clings to anger, you'll notice every insult, every slight. If you're addicted to control, you'll see the world as constantly threatening your order. In this way, we don't live in reality. We live in our projections. And yet, every once in a while, something breaks through. A sunrise so beautiful it silences your thoughts. A moment of pure presence in the face of grief. A sudden clarity in the middle of chaos. In that instant, the veil lifts, and for a flickering second, you see without filters, not past, not future, not judgment, just this, just what is. That's what perception looks like without dust, and it changes everything. Because when the mind is quiet, reality doesn't need to be edited. It just is simple, raw, whole. A rainy day doesn't feel depressing. It's just rain. An angry person doesn't become your enemy. They're just angry. A failure doesn't destroy your self-worth. It's just an event passing like clouds across sky. Zen teaches us, things are not as they appear, nor are they otherwise. It's not about denying what we see. It's about recognizing that what we see is shaped, moment by moment, by our inner landscape. And if we don't clean the dust, we'll keep mistaking our filters for facts, our projections for truth, our pain for the world. So how do we clean the glass? We start with humility. The humility to admit, I don't know the whole picture. I may not be seeing this clearly. My mind might be coloring what I think is reality. And then we begin watching, noticing how thought paints over every experience, how memory shapes the present, how ego edits the scene to protect itself. With each moment of awareness, a little dust falls away. And over time, you start to see life as it really is, imperfect, unpredictable, and yet breathtakingly complete. You stop reacting blindly. You start responding consciously. You don't need to escape life. You just need to see it without the fog. And the moment that happens, suffering starts to dissolve. Because suffering, too, was never in the world. It was in how we perceived the world. So maybe we were never trapped by life. Maybe we were only trapped in perception. And maybe, just maybe, freedom is not found by changing what we see, but by changing how we see. The voice continues, soft, clear, like the echo of wind through bamboo. The path ahead doesn't require new eyes, only a cleaner lens, a little less dust, a little more stillness. And from that stillness, a new world quietly appears. Not a different world, but one you've never truly seen before. And when that world reveals itself, everything you thought you knew begins to shift. You don't need to climb a mountain to discover the truth. You don't need to sit under a bodhi tree for 49 days. The mirror is already in front of you, reflecting everything, every person you meet, every reaction you have, every moment that unsettles or soothes you. They are all messengers, all mirrors, showing you not the world, but your own mind. Think about the last time someone made you angry. Was it really their words or your wounded pride? The last time you felt anxious, was it the situation or your fear of losing control? The outer world doesn't insert itself into your soul. It pulls up what's already there. Every frustration, every irritation, every flash of jealousy. They're not interruptions, they're reflections. The world is not against you, it's revealing you to yourself. A Zen master once said, "The entire universe is your teacher, if you're willing to see." But most of us don't want to see, we want to blame. So we yell at traffic, curse our coworkers, ghost our friends, bury our emotions in screens and scrolls. We smash the mirror instead of cleaning the face. But the mirror doesn't lie, it only reflects. You see someone being arrogant, and you judge them harshly. Pause. Is it their arrogance that bothers you, or is it your hidden need to feel superior? You see someone succeed, and feel a sting of resentment. Is it their success that hurts you, or is it your own sense of not being enough? This is not about shame, it's about freedom. Because once you recognize that the disturbance is in you, you reclaim the power to heal it. Every ordinary day is rich with reflections. That spilled coffee that made you snap, it wasn't the coffee. It was the stress you've been carrying like a hidden weight. That friend who canceled plans and made you feel rejected, it wasn't about them. It was the part of you that still craves validation. These moments, trivial, fleeting, they are golden opportunities to meet yourself. And the more you notice, the more the world becomes your temple. Buddhism never promised a perfect life. It promised a clearer one. A life where instead of avoiding pain, you listen to it. Instead of running from discomfort, you sit with it, you learn its language, and in doing so, you soften. You see through the hard edges of the ego. You begin to understand what it means to be fully human, not in a spiritual retreat, but in line at the grocery store, in rush hour traffic, in a messy house with dishes in the sink. That's where the mirror shines brightest, not in silence, but in chaos, not in the perfect moment, but in the real one. Because if you can see clearly there, you can see clearly anywhere. So let the world reflect. Let it show you your patterns. Let it trigger the anger, the pride, the clinging, the fear. And then, use those reflections as fuel. Fuel to return. Fuel to clean the mirror. Fuel to find stillness in the middle of noise. You don't need to escape life to awaken. You just need to stop turning away from your own reflection. Every problem you face, every person who irritates you, every discomfort you feel, they are not distractions from your path. They are the path. The voice softens, almost like a whisper, and when the mirror becomes clear, something beautiful happens. You stop reacting, you start responding, you stop judging, you start understanding. You stop defending the self, because you see there's nothing to protect, just awareness, just presence, just life, unfolding as it always has. And now that the mirror has begun to clear, perhaps you're ready to look even deeper, not just at what the world reflects, but how the inner world can shape the outer one. We've talked about mirrors, dust, and the mind's ability to shape reality. But sometimes truth doesn't arrive as philosophy. It arrives through people, living, breathing, struggling, awakening. Stories not written in books, but etched into the quiet corners of ordinary lives. Let me tell you about Ravi. He worked in finance, fast-paced, high-pressure, every hour filled with numbers and noise. He was successful on paper, but every night he stared at the ceiling, wondering why the success felt hollow. One day during his commute, a stranger bumped into him on the subway and didn't say sorry. Ravi, already worn thin, exploded. He yelled. The stranger just walked away. And in that moment, something cracked open inside him. It wasn't the stranger's fault. It was him, his own storm, his expectations, his hunger for control. His mind endlessly stirred. He started meditating, not to escape life, but to understand it. Months passed. He didn't quit his job. He didn't move to the mountains, but he began to respond instead of react. He listened more. He felt anger rise and watched it melt before it reached his lips. And now, he says, the chaos is still there, but it doesn't live in me anymore. Then there's Mai, a mother of 3. Her days were a blur of cooking, cleaning, crying, school runs. She loved her children, but deep down, resentment brewed. At the loss of freedom, the noise, the exhaustion no one seemed to see. One morning, her youngest spilled juice on the floor again. Mai screamed. Her daughter froze. Her other child started crying. And for the first time, Mai saw it. She wasn't angry at the juice. She was angry at herself for carrying so much, alone in silence. That night, she sat on the kitchen floor and cried, not because she was weak, but because she was waking up. She started small, 5 minutes of silence before sunrise. Breathing, feeling, learning to soften, to forgive, to let go. Now she says, I used to think I had to control everything. Now I know peace comes when I stop trying to. And then there's Elijah. He lost his father to cancer. Then his partner left. Then he lost his job. Everything collapsed all at once. For months, he couldn't get out of bed. He felt broken beyond repair. One evening, he walked to a park bench with the thought of not returning. But something stopped him. Not a sign, not a voice, just stillness. A kind of empty silence that didn't feel cold but clear. He sat there for hours, watching the wind move the leaves, watching himself breathe. He didn't feel better, but he felt real. It was the beginning. He began studying the teachings of impermanence, how loss is not failure, but a doorway. Today, he volunteers at a hospice, sitting with those facing the same pain. He says, I used to think my life was over. Now I know it was just beginning. These stories are not about perfection. They're about transformation. They're not tales of escape. They're stories of returning to the self, to presence, to peace. You see, awakening doesn't look like light beams and halos. It looks like a tired parent breathing through a tantrum. It looks like a grieving soul sitting quietly with sorrow. It looks like someone noticing their anger before it takes shape. That is real inner work. That is transformation. And here's the beautiful part. These people are not special. They are not monks or mystics. They are just willing to look, willing to pause, willing to stop blaming the world long enough to meet themselves. And that's all it takes to begin the journey. Not a change in life, but a change in relationship to life. The voice grows quieter, like the hush before dawn. You might not see the shift from the outside, but inside, everything is changing. Because once the mind begins to clear, once the mirror begins to reflect instead of distort, you don't need a different world. You just need a different way of being in it. And once that way reveals itself, the mind becomes not just a mirror, but a light, and light, once seen clearly, begins to shine through everything you do. Even the simplest act becomes sacred. There is a moment. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or a voice from the sky, but it changes everything. A small shift, barely visible from the outside. But within you, a revolution. It begins like this. You walk into the same room, but suddenly you see it. The way sunlight kisses the table. The way someone speaks, and what's really behind their words. The way your breath rises, falls, and carries all of life within it. Nothing has changed. And yet everything has. Because now you are seeing it with a pure mind. A pure mind isn't sterile or silent. It's alive. It doesn't suppress emotions, it understands them. It doesn't fight the world, it flows with it. And from that clarity, something extraordinary begins to unfold. The world starts responding. Imagine waking up, and instead of bracing yourself for the day, you meet it with curiosity. Instead of fighting traffic, you observe the mind that wants to fight, and choose stillness instead. Instead of needing the world to agree with you, you start listening, not to win, not to reply, but to understand. That's the shift, not dramatic, but deep. Let's take something simple. Someone cuts in front of you in line. Old mind, how dare they? Anger, ego, maybe even revenge. Pure mind, they must be in a hurry. Compassion, understanding, letting go. One action, two realities. Same event, different worlds, because the world you see is the one your mind creates, and it ripples. A gentle word instead of a harsh one, a pause before reacting, a smile that isn't forced but free. You're not just changing your mood. You're shifting the energy of your entire life. People begin to notice, not because you're preaching, but because you've become peace itself. And peace is contagious. But here's the secret: this shift doesn't make life perfect. Your boss might still be demanding. Your partner may still forget to say thank you. Bills still arrive. Dishes still pile up. But now you're not drowning in it. You're breathing through it. Your inner weather has cleared. So when storms come, you remain the sky. You begin to see beauty where you used to see boredom. You notice patterns, how your mind used to loop, judge, tighten, and now it opens, it softens, it smiles more. Not because everything is good, but because you've stopped needing things to be different to feel whole. This shift is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world taught you fear. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about being so present with it. That pain loses its grip. You feel everything, but nothing owns you anymore, and others feel it too. Your child senses you're calm and calms down. Your coworker opens up because you're truly listening. A stranger feels seen in your silence because your presence speaks more than words ever could. This is how a pure mind changes everything, not by controlling the outside, but by transforming the inside. And from there, everything begins to bloom. You're no longer trying to force the lotus to open. You simply sit in stillness. And one day it does. Because that's the nature of life. When the mud settles, the flower appears. So if you're wondering whether this inner work really matters, look around. Your relationships, your reactions, your mornings, your nights, they all carry the fingerprint of your mind. Purify the root, and the branches heal themselves. When people say, the world is changing, maybe they're right, but maybe. It's just one awakened mind at a time, starting with yours. A monk once asked the Zen master, "How do I purify my mind?" The master replied, "Bring me your mind and I will clean it for you." The monk paused, confused, "But I cannot find it." The master smiled, "Then it is already pure." Zen doesn't explain. Zen points. It doesn't hand you answers, it hands you silence. And in that silence you see. From the Zen perspective, purity is not about adding anything. It's not about fixing yourself or becoming better. It's about removing what's not you, like carving a statue not by building up but by chiseling away. The pure mind isn't something we gain, it's something we uncover. Zen asks, what are you seeing the world through? Your thoughts, your labels, your fears. Every moment we're not just seeing, we're projecting. We don't see the tree, we see oak, property line, shade, firewood. We don't see the person, we see friend, threat, stranger, competition. But a pure mind doesn't rush to define, it experiences. A Zen student once asked his master, "What is the truth?" The master answered, "Look at the cypress tree in the garden. No philosophy, no scripture, just presence. Truth is not somewhere else. It's right here beneath the dust of perception." One of Zen's most famous teachings says, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." What changes? Not the action. The mind before the chopping is effort, boredom, frustration. After its presence, simplicity, grace, same world, different eyes. Perception in Zen isn't passive, it creates. If your mind is restless, the world feels hostile. If your mind is fearful, every shadow becomes a threat. But if your mind is clear, the world softens. Not because it changed, but because you did. Zen offers no grand promises, it simply asks, are you awake? Not tomorrow. Not after you meditate more. Now, because if you're not present in this very moment, you're not truly alive. In one koan, a master says, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." But what does that mean? It means a pure mind doesn't resist. It doesn't crave. It moves like water, fluid, open, ungrasping. It meets joy without clinging. It meets sorrow without resistance. It simply meets. To Zen, perception is not just how we see. It's what we become. The more we project onto the world, the more the world becomes a mirror of our noise. But the moment we let go, just breathe, just listen, just be, reality appears crisp and unfiltered, and it is always enough. In one temple, a monk sweeps the floor daily. Dust still settles, but the practice is not to finish. It is to remain present. The sweeping is the meditation. The dust is the teaching. In the same way, purifying the mind is not a one-time act. It is a moment-to-moment return. So Zen doesn't say, fix the world. It says, see clearly. And in that clarity, right action flows naturally. Kindness is not forced, it arises. Wisdom is not memorized, it blooms. Peace is not pursued, it is remembered. The Zen masters never taught with many words, but their silence roared with presence. They sat. They watched the wind move through bamboo. They listened to the sound of one hand clapping. They let go of needing to know. And in doing so, knew more than any book could offer. Zen is not a path of more. It's a path of less. Less noise, less grasping, less illusion. And from that emptiness comes everything. So maybe you don't need to change the world today. Maybe you just need to sit still and notice it. The breath, the sky, the sound of your own heart beating, not through judgment, not through thought, but through the eyes of a mind that no longer clings. That is the purest perception of all. You can recycle your plastics, donate to charity, sign petitions, and campaign for change. And you should. But if the mind behind all those actions is still clouded by anger, fear, and ego, then what are you really changing? A storm cannot clear another storm. A fire cannot put out fire. Only stillness brings peace. Only clarity dissolves confusion. And yet, we keep trying to solve the outer world. With inner chaos, look around. So much effort is spent on fixing broken systems, fixing broken people, fixing broken governments, broken families, broken everything. But here's the paradox. The more obsessed we are with fixing the world, the more we avoid facing our own minds, because fixing out there is easier than facing in here. What if the world isn't as broken as we think? What if it's just a mirror, reflecting our fractured attention, our reactive minds, our unhealed wounds? And what if the greatest change we can offer starts not with protest or plans, but with stillness? A Zen parable tells of a man sitting in a boat on a quiet lake. Suddenly, another boat crashes into his. He explodes in anger until he realizes the other boat is empty. It had drifted with the current, no one to blame. And in that moment, he laughs, because the anger was never about the boat. It was always his. That's the insight we miss when we rush to fix the world. It's not just the world that bumps into us. It's our interpretation of it, our reaction to it, our ego demanding that everything should be different. But a pure mind doesn't demand. It understands. We think, if only the world were quieter, safer, kinder, I'd be at peace. But the path of inner transformation whispers something very different. Be at peace now and watch how the world changes. Not magically, not instantly, but slowly, subtly, because you start to see it without the filters of fear. You stop reacting. You start responding. And that's where true impact begins. Think of the Buddha. He didn't march. He didn't argue. He sat under a tree. And in that stillness, he transformed the consciousness of millions. Not by fixing the world, but by fixing the root, the human mind. You see, a reactive mind cannot build a peaceful world. A fearful mind cannot create safety. An angry mind cannot end hatred. But a clear mind, a compassionate mind, becomes a presence that ripples outwards, touching everyone in its quiet orbit. There's a saying in Zen, 10,000 flowers bloom from a single root. That root is the mind. If you want a garden of peace, don't keep pruning branches, tend to the root. Let's take it even deeper. Imagine a world where every person spent 1 hour a day, not scrolling, not reacting, not posting, but simply watching their own mind. What would happen? The wars wouldn't end overnight. The economy wouldn't magically balance, but greed would lose its grip, fear would soften, and compassion, true, quiet compassion, would rise like the sun after a long night. That world isn't impossible. It's just waiting for us to stop pointing fingers and start looking inward. Of course, this isn't easy. The ego resists silence. It craves distraction. It loves the idea that the problem is always somewhere else. But truth demands courage, and courage starts with stillness. Fixing the world without fixing the mind is like mopping the floor while the tap is still running. It looks productive, but the water keeps rising. You want real change? Turn off the tap. This doesn't mean inaction. It means right action. Action born not from fear or self-righteousness, but from wisdom, from a place of clarity, balance, deep care. That kind of action is not noisy, but it is powerful, because it is rooted in something unshakable. In a society obsessed with doing, Zen invites us to be, not because action is wrong, but because being is the source from which all right action flows. You want to change the world? Sit with yourself. See what's true beneath the stories. Face what you'd rather avoid. Breathe. Listen. Purify the mud. And then rise with a heart that no longer needs to prove itself, with a mind that sees clearly, with hands ready to serve, not control. The world needs change, but more than anything, it needs minds that are no longer trapped by their own noise. Because when the mind is pure, your world will follow quietly, naturally, like ripples on still water. Purity of mind isn't a destination. It's a daily discipline, a quiet devotion, not loud, not flashy, but deeply transformative when done consistently. You don't need to shave your head, move to a monastery, or meditate in a cave. You only need to begin right where you are, in your apartment, at your office, in the grocery line, at the dinner table, because the mind is with you everywhere, and so is the path. Before the world wakes up, before your phone lights up, before the demands pile on. Take 5 minutes, just 5, sit, close your eyes, breathe. No need to do anything, just be. Feel your breath entering, leaving. Notice your thoughts, but don't follow them. Let them drift like clouds. Stay with the sky. This is not about control, it's about observation. And in that quiet watching, the mind slowly begins to settle, like mud in a glass of water. Don't just meditate once and forget. Make your entire day a meditation. You can do this in small ways. Pause before speaking. Notice your emotions as they rise. Ask yourself gently, where is this coming from? Catch the moment the mind starts judging and smile at it. This practice doesn't require hours. It only requires attention. A cluttered mind often begins with a cluttered environment. We scroll, swipe, click, binge, until the noise drowns our inner clarity. Try this. Unfollow pages that trigger stress. Create a digital pause each evening. No screens after 9 p.m. Instead of filling silence with noise, let it stay silent. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. A pure mind is not just quiet, it's kind. But compassion doesn't always come naturally. It must be chosen. So when someone cuts you off in traffic, when a colleague snaps, when your partner forgets something again, pause, breathe, and respond. Don't react. Ask, what would compassion do here? That small shift rewires the entire nervous system. It turns irritation into insight, and it deepens your presence in the moment. The modern world rushes, but the pure mind lives in rhythm, not race. Bring small rituals into your life, acts done not for efficiency but for presence. Make tea slowly. Light a candle at sunset. Walk without your phone. Write down one thing you're grateful for every night. These small acts are anchors. They bring you back to now, back to being, back to the root. At the end of the day, take a few quiet minutes to reflect. Ask yourself, where did my mind get caught today? When did I react? When did I pause? Did I see clearly or through old filters? This isn't self-judgment. It's self-awareness. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to see. And seeing is the first light of awakening. Purity doesn't mean never having negative thoughts. It means not getting lost in them. There will be days your mind feels chaotic. There will be moments you fall into anger, greed, fear. That's okay. The path is not about being untouched. It's about returning again and again, gently, patiently, without shame. Even the Buddha faced Mara again and again. But he didn't fight, he simply said, I see you. And in seeing, Mara lost his power. Some days you'll feel spacious, light, clear. Other days the mud will rise, but trust this. Every moment you choose awareness over autopilot. Every breath you take consciously. Every time you pause instead of react. You are purifying, even if you don't feel it. Just as a stone becomes smooth not by force, but by the constant movement of water. Your mind is being refined. By the gentle persistence of your practice. That's the essence. Not being flawless, not achieving enlightenment overnight. Just this, keep coming back, to the breath, to the present, to the quiet watcher within. This returning is the practice, and the practice is the path. You may never see the mind become pure like glass, but you will notice this: less noise, less reactivity, more space, more love, more moments where you feel at home in yourself. And that truly is enough. Because when the mind is pure, even for a breath, the world softens, not because it changed, but because you did. There comes a moment when the seeking slows, when the mind stops grasping, when you no longer ask, what should I do to find peace? Because suddenly, you remember. Peace was never missing, stillness was never absent, clarity was never far. It was simply hidden, beneath the noise. Like a lake disturbed by wind. The surface of your mind ripples with fear, judgment, desire. But when you stop stirring, the water clears, and in that clarity, you begin to see. The world was never broken. Only your perception was blurred. You don't need to fix the world. You don't need to solve every problem, correct every person, win every argument. You only need to sit, to see, to be. And from that being, a quiet wisdom arises, not the wisdom of books, but the wisdom of presence. In stillness, the world softens, the harsh becomes gentle, the chaotic finds rhythm, the meaningless becomes sacred. Because when you are still, you are finally able to listen, to really hear the rustle of the trees, the silence between words, the space between breaths. That is where truth lives. Not in theories, but in direct experience. A pure mind doesn't mean perfection. It means intimacy with the moment. It means seeing things as they are. Without adding, without subtracting, without distorting, just this. This breath, this cup of tea, this face in front of you, all clear. All whole, all enough. And perhaps this is the greatest transformation of all. You no longer chase the extraordinary. Because you see the extraordinary. In the ordinary, the miracle of awareness, the simplicity of now, the deep joy of being at home in yourself. You've walked with us through the dust, the noise, the stories, the mirrors. You've touched the ancient wisdom that says, when the mind is pure, the world is pure. And now, the journey is not ending. It's beginning again. In every moment you choose stillness. You don't need to strive, you only need to return. So pause, breathe, feel the quiet. Let it fill you until you remember who you've always been. Beyond fear, beyond grasping, beyond noise, just awareness, just presence, just this. If this touched something inside you, if a moment of stillness opened in your heart, we invite you to stay close. This is Zen Buddhism wisdom, a space for seekers of silence, lovers of truth, and those ready to see the world not as it appears, but as it truly is. Subscribe if this resonates. Share it with a friend who may need this breath of clarity. And remember, you don't have to change the whole world. You only have to change the way you see. And when your seeing is pure, the world becomes pure too. Until next time, may your path be peaceful. May your mind be clear. May you walk gently and see deeply.